Hi guys, welcome and namaste to the Yoga Out of the Box podcast. My name is Marvin. I'm a yoga teacher and a yoga practitioner. And on this podcast, I try to share as honest as I can my experience as both. And I want to give you more insights into my kind of thinking and the thinking of other people around the topic of yoga in a modern kind of sense of life and a modern society. Today I want to talk with you about like a retreat immersion I had just recently, like 1.5 months ago, in India, in Mandrem, in Goa, with Thailand room, in the sense of like a 2 weeks immersion into Black Lotus Yoga, his own new style of yoga. And what I want to talk with you about is not just the topic of Black Lotus, but as well the comparison of Black Lotus in the relationship to Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. You guys know that I'm like a practitioner and teacher of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga for some years now, and I am a strong believer into this practice and this method. And at the same time, I was never like a really dogmatic believer in it. You know that for me, dogma is always like a sense of losing yoga, of trying to get hold and a grip of evolving life, which is not possible, and which is again like ridiculous if you think about it, that you want to hold on to ever-changing life, what yoga is teaching us. So for me, all my teachers I had so far and all teachers I admire in my personal journey have been always super open, super not how to explain that. They have been super open in the sense of like adapting their practice, in the sense of teaching their practice, in the sense of making yoga accessible for everyone, even if it's Ashtanga, which is mostly have this like bad words around it, like rigid or like really dogmatic. I couldn't say that from my experience in every Mysore room I have been to, luckily so far. But at the same time, my teachers have been like really precise in what they are teaching and how they transport the information and their experience from one being to another. And I always admired this, and I still admire this, and I hope I can do the same for my students. But at the same time, I think, and we all have to agree about this, that there are two different kind of like things in tradition. First of all, tradition has to be alive. Otherwise, every tradition will die. And if a tradition gets too stuck up, too caught up in their minds or in their special things, it will die. There's no other way around this. So we always have to evolve. And for me, especially, if we have a closer look on the Ashtanga Vinyasa line or lineage especially, we see the systematic approach is like great teaching we had. The Mysore system itself is a unique opportunity for students of yoga to practice and to learn, and for teachers to teach. It is my favorite style of teaching as well as practicing. And at the same time, we have to refer to asana postures which have been invented in the 1900s and has been like to a different kind of bodies, to a different kind of society, to a different kind of lifestyle, to a different kind of understanding about anatomy and movement. And when we go now into Black Lotus Yoga, relatively new modern yoga style invented by Thai just recently, he doesn't say he invented it, but it came to him. We have to see that there's a value in using old systems and trying to keep this tradition alive by making it modern and having a different kind of approach to it than to completely do something different. A really good example that I gave was that, for example, in philosophy, most of like Western philosophers try to don't mention even like any other kind of philosopher or philosophy, and they don't refer to it evenly. They just want to have the idea by themselves, while Eastern philosophy always builds up on each other. They refer to each other. Even if you have newer stories, they refer to older stories to just give credits, to say, okay, we have maybe now a different understanding or another idea about this, but there was this before. And I think Tara is doing the same. That's why he has created this mantras. That's why he's created the Mysore style around it. That's why he is teaching in the way he's teaching. And he's still strongly referring to that. And for me, this is something which I really appreciate because it gives me clarity. It gives me not this confusion of, he did this and now he wants to create something new, and the old thing he doesn't like anymore, and it's just his new thing and it's just about one person. No, it's like a system which evolved out of something, out of a good reason, maybe out of some good reasons, and which is now being taught and being like understood and being evenly consumed. And if you compare the both styles, you have to see that obviously Black Lotus now refers way more to like modern kind of postures. It refers more to our sitting frontward and like opening way more up the back as well. All sequences you're practicing are way more opening your body in the sense of like working with your prana and apana and evenly having a more whole-rounded system. When you think back, in Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga in the beginning, the primary and the intermediate series have been taught together because you have the forward folds and you have the backward bending. And this was way more whole practice. Then they spread it out because it got too long, it got too difficult for most practitioners, which absolutely made sense and makes sense still, but it is just now for a lot of people I'm teaching, and I was talking to, or I was seeing as well in other shalas I've practiced around the globe, have got stuck. They just have got stuck. And if you are not lucky and you have a good teacher who was always like helping you to modify and to individualize and to give you like the whole well-rounded practice, what for example, some of my teachers always did, and what I am doing as well, being honest, you could get like into a situation where you just have a one-sided practice, which is not in any sense modern. And I think we have to rethink that. And I think even if you want to, this is not like, oh, I want to preach you now Black Lotus. I don't want to preach you now Ashtanga. I just want to give you the few differences. I want to show you where it comes from my perspective on understanding, obviously. You can have a look on the website of Ty. He can explain it way better than I do. I just try to give you my experience from this retreat and training, but we have to try to understand where is this coming from, where are the difference coming from, and what can we take from that. So even if you're an Ashtanga teacher and practitioner, I don't want to convince you to turn to another yoga style. Don't get me wrong. I'm still practicing Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga strongly and I love it. I mix it up now, but I try to give you the most values out of that. And I think one of these values is like think about postures, which really helps you, supports you in your modern life, which we all live. We're not anymore like 100 years ago, like before World War I or World War II, and we're not evenly living in India as kids. Okay, we have to deal with desk jobs, curling forward, not having enough movement, not being like open enough in our hips from all this sitting all day. So let's think how we can have like a well-rounded practice which supports us most of the time and most throughout our whole life. So we can practice as long as we can, as healthy as we can. And this is an essential part of that. A big difference I see as well is that in Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, typically it's taught that the teacher is giving you the next asana, each step ahead. And I love that. And I love this when I get to my teacher and she's giving me new asana and I feel how the asana before is building up to that and how we work together. But as well, some asanas build really good up on each other, some others don't. And I think even this has to be rethought in a modern way. And Ty did this in this style, even if, and this is different in Black Lotus, you don't get each pose separately. You get the whole sequence and you get it in different free kind of shades. So you have more accessible kind of practice because you can practice the whole series. You have a whole well-rounded practice, but you have the option to have each individual asana in white, easy, gray, medium, or black, advanced. And this gives all this thing a nice tweak. Now we come to a point which I personally thought is like kind of confusing for me, because when I got there, guys, I never practiced this before. It was the first time I went to Thai because of his philosophical talks, and this immersion was also like a philosophy inversion, which I really was looking forward to. And this we get another podcast episode about this for sure. But as well, it was a kind of, okay, I just start. I love Mysore rooms, right? But everybody around me was starting with anything and having like their own sequence, like, okay, I start white 1, I do like the 3rd, somebody was doing the 4th, like in gray, and I was like, okay, what do I do? And I think you have to get used to that. I think as well you have to have this kind of, everybody was practicing each day whatever he wanted. And if I understood this correctly, it should be like first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day. Maybe a bit different to get like the second first day and the first on the last day as well. I don't know. I will check that out. I will give you feedback later. But as well, it was something which got me like, okay, this is a bit too free for me. And this is a critique I wanted to say, because I think this is what Ashtanga really gives me, the systematic of I do my sequence following up. I do first, I do intermediate, I do advanced, and then back. And this is like pretty clear. And I think you can have this as well with a modern style of Black Lotus, being honest. What I really think is that doesn't matter what you want to practice, doesn't matter what you want to teach, you have to understand the modern human being, and you have to understand what you really want out of that style. I asked Tai once, do you think you can practice both Ashtanga and Black Lotus? And he was saying, honestly, you can try, do whatever you want. Sure, feel free, but you will see that most people stick to Black Lotus because it's a kind of more well-rounded, it makes more fun, it's like a kind of more taking over practice. And I felt this. I really felt this. At this moment, I'm trying to be practicing 3 days a week my Ashtanga sequences and going then to Black Lotus and practice my Black Lotus sequences. And I see how the both styles can individually help me in different kinds of phases of life. And I stack them really individually. 3 days a week I have like a really early practice, 3 days a week I have like a really late practice. And again, I try not to be too like preaching about something. I try to get this both different styles, different systems of yoga, which are really similar or coming from the same source, and put them into a frame. And this frame is my life. And I try to make it as accessible as possible for me, to make it easy to build a self-practice I can relate to. Because if I would let go completely of my Ashtanga practice, I would let go of not just so many years, but as well so much I took from that and so much I take still from it. At the same time, I can still evolve in this style. I can still have a kind of like development for myself in this kind of experience. And this meditative state, for me, example, has Ashtanga way more. On the other hand, Black Lotus gives me a kind of more well-rounded practice for my whole body and is more fitting and more like adapting to my normal day-to-day life, which gives me again like for my whole body and my mind a kind of adaptation where I can work with in my Ashtanga practice. And so I think for me at the moment, both work really, really well together. I don't try to prioritize one or two, but I really see that sometimes I have a stronger practice in Black Lotus, sometimes I have a stronger practice in Ashtanga, but in general, both of them help me to be more healthy and more stable in my practice and to maintain my practice way more. And I think this is like really, really interesting because I haven't thought about this before. And it seems like Tai wasn't like aware of that this could work as well, or was not expecting it at least. What I have to say is that I think in each way you have to be open for yourself. You have to be not too dogmatic about the style or the teacher. I really like this about Tai, that he's always like not saying he's like the new over teacher, the new over guru. He's like really trying to build this fundament, like slowly building new teachers, building a full system. And I think you can do that. You can really learn from that. It's harder to find Black Lotus, obviously, because there are not so many teachers out there for now, but I see more and more people coming, doing the teacher trainings. And at the same time, I think both of them go really well together in a Mysore room. And this is where I see the combination, what I want to do and include in my Mysore style for sure, that I want to help people practice both, because it can be so helpful. What I feel is that we as Ashtanga practitioners don't have to feel so anxious, maybe about losing our practice, not so anxious about, oh, there's something new coming up or something modern or anything. But at the same time, we can appreciate that something is coming up newly, which has reference to Ashtanga, which is not making the cake smaller, it's making the cake bigger, because more people get to know each Ashtanga, get to know to the source as well. And at the same time, at least not seeing something which is like completely without any reference, like Vinyasa Yoga, which is like completely so far away from what we are teaching, from what we are learning, from what we have in experience. So I think we have to appreciate this as well. And finally, I have to say that all of this immersion was, for me personally, like really evolution, because I came back to my practice, like I mentioned in this episode earlier. I really worked with it. I really got the first time into this style, which was kind of confusing in the beginning, but really driving while the practice, really driving in the end. So I was actually even thinking like, oh, I don't want to go. I want to like keep this on. And I have the experience with my friends I met there. Amazing people, by the way. If anyone is listening, guys, love you all. Hope to see you soon. Yeah, all of them have been like super into the topic and super into this. Wow, it's so good for us. And I love that. I love this community, and it made me feel like a kind of back in the days, maybe Ashtanga, how I would imagine it. I mean, I never experienced it. I'm sorry, I was born too late. It was not my fault. I was just like 16, 2010. So basically too late for everything. But yeah, I think there's still a big opportunity there. And I hope that you can have in future the option to test it. There's some videos out there. I will link something below in the description. I want to give this reference as well, obviously. As well, the teachers assisting Thai have been super generous, super helpful. Two of them were super like supportive to me and were really communicative. Thai itself was really helpful for me, was working with me on my TikToks actually. And yeah, I can just highly recommend this retreat. I don't get any provision, unfortunately, as a poor yoga teacher, but I can just tell you it was great. And I would recommend it. Don't saying I'm just now a Black Lotus follower. I'm not just an Ashtanga follower. I think I'm a practitioner of yoga, and I try to figure out my way, and I try to include as much as I can from different teachers, different teachings, and at the same time experience it myself. I hope this video or this like podcast episode gave you any value, you have any kind of new information out of that, and any sense of more understanding about it. If you want to try, feel free. If you have any questions, leave some comments below. Guys, if there was something in this episode for you, please feel free to follow the podcast on the podcast platform of your trust. That really helps me out. Please share this episode with somebody who could be interested in. And yeah, follow along for more. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.